Chapter 6 is entitled Spike and Starbloom. So I guess they're gonna be a ship now. That's just great. Nope, no romance tag. Oh well, I was looking forward to that. Maybe a shower scene. Hopefully. Yeah, hopefully. You know, it's barely over 3,000 words, so that means we won't have a part 2 and there won't be no epic monologue. A banana nut bread and whatnot. Starbloom had tried to prepare herself for all day for this. She knew she would see Spike today, and she had a lot of mixed emotions about it. But now here she was, face to face with him, and all she could do was stand there in front of him, staring with tears forming in her eyes. She didn't know what to say to him. "Starbloom, are you okay?" Twilight asked, coming from the kitchen and walking over to her and Spike, nudging her softly with her hoof. "It's okay. You don't have to be scared," she said, trying to reassure the small filly. When Twilight nudged her, it snapped her out of her emotional roller coaster, and she smiled weakly at Spike, nodding at him. "Yes, I'm Starbloom. Twilight told me all about you, Spike, and I'm glad to meet you." She managed to find her voice and speak. She wasn't too sure what Twilight had told them, so she decided not to offer anything. She looked up and over at Twilight, smiling at her. If it's all right, I'd like to go take a bath." "Yes! Shower scene!" Get naked. Starbloom, get naked now. Starbloom, get naked now. Oh 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 oh. Let's read the shower scene right now. Oh. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely awake now, as you can tell. If it's alright, I'd like to go take a bath. I got kind of dirty crusading today, she asked Twilight, the look in her eyes saying she needed some time to herself. "Of course, Starbloom. Sounds like a good idea," Twilight answered the small filly, noticing she was covered in dirt now that she had got a better look at her. "Do I even want to know what you girls have been up to?" Twilight asked, after having a good look at her. Starbloom gave her a cheesy grin and shakes her head lightly. She answered Twilight, saying, "Probably not, but it wasn't anything dangerous." She thought it best not to mention the diamond dogs, so continued by saying, "We just went hunting for gems." Twilight blinked at Starbloom and shakes her head a bit. "Gem hunting? Well, as long as you're safe. Now go get cleaned up and ready for dinner." Twilight told the filly. Through all that, Spike had remained quiet before hearing the mention of gem hunting. He drooled a little and looked at Starbloom. "Did you find any gems, I mean?" He looked with a hungry look in his eyes. "Please tell me you found a few," he said, smiling at her. She looked at Spike and smiled, nodding her head to him. "Yes, actually, we did find a few," she answered, reaching back into her saddlebag and takes out one of the gems, showing it to him. It was a small emerald. "Here, you can have it," she said, giving it to him before heading upstairs to take a bath. Spike grinned as she gave him the emerald and licked his lips. "Thank you so much. It looks delicious." I love emeralds," he said as he gave the emerald a lick. Starbloom smiled as she made her way up the stairs to her room, putting her saddlebags in the corner, and took a deep breath. Reaching up, she undid her cape and put it on a hook on the wall before going into her bathroom. Closing the door, apparently Starbloom is the water. Sheathed the water to a large tub, raising the lever to turn the shower on. "Brilliant, Starbloom. You finally see Spike after weeks and you act like a filly." "You are a filly," she scolded herself, pausing as she looks at herself in the mirror, sighing softly. "Well, I guess that's because I am a filly," she reminded herself, shaking her head before getting to the tub, and closed her eyes, letting the water. This is what I've been waiting for. She reminded herself, shaking her head before getting to the tub and closed her eyes, letting the water from the shower rain down on her. She gets the sponge and starts to scrub the dirty mud out of her coat. It took a bit of work, but she managed to get her coat clean, so she started to wash out her mane using the forehooves to lather up the shampoo in her mane before turning to do her tail. Once she was clean and rinsed off, she plugged the tub and switched the water off to fill the tub and settled into the racing water to relax. That's awesome. I need to relax. This spike isn't my spike, from my world. I must remember that and not let my emotions get the better of me, she told herself, closing her eyes and turning off the water, relaxing. After a few moments... Oh. Don't cock-block Bill Cosby, Twilight. After a few moments, she heard a knocking on her bathroom door and looks over to it, tilting her head faintly. Come in, she answered the knock, wondering who it was. It was Twilight, who came into the bathroom and trotted over to her. Are you okay, Starbloom? You seemed upset when I came out of the kitchen. She spoke softly and had a look of concern in her eyes as she looked at the young filly in the tub. I'm all right, Twilight. Just seeing Spike after all this time. My emotions got the best of me, I guess, Starbloom replied in an equally soft voice. I guess I wasn't as ready as I thought I was, she added, closing her eyes again, sighing softly. Twilight nodded softly at Starbloom. As much as he tried, she couldn't picture how the filly was feeling, seeing Spike again, after having thought she lost him forever. She smiles at Starbloom and uses her magic to get a towel. Well, come on, let's go have dinner. No, shower scene, Twilight said, holding the towel up. Starbloom nods, getting up and draining the tub. She shakes herself off to get most of the water off her before hopping out and lets Twilight finish drying her off with the towel. Thank you, Twilight. What are we having for dinner anyways? She asked, moving to the mirror to straighten out her mane with a brush as Twilight put the towel away. Nothing too fancy. Vegetable stew, bread, and some of Applejack's apple cider, Twilight said, smiling, waiting for Starbloom to finish before walking with her down the stairs back to the library's main hall before heading into the kitchen. Spike was already there, having set the table and waiting. There you two are. I thought I would have to start without you, Spike said, looking over Starbloom and Twilight. The emerald Starbloom gave him, sitting in a smaller plate. He planned on saving it for dessert. Twilight gave him a smile as she used her magic to fix everyone a plate and set it on the table for them as she spoke. Sorry to keep you waiting, Spike. Starbloom was pretty dirty from her gem hunting. Yeah, you didn't wash her? Damn, man. Bill Cosby, I'm sorry I hired you. Yeah, well, go screw yourself, kid. He just left. Like, really? Thanks a lot, Lisa. God, I paid a whole whopping 4 cents for him to come here. That and a cup of Jell-O pudding. Bill Cosby loves his Jell-O pudding, man. She gave Starbloom a smile before continuing. I can only imagine how Rarity Rector's Sweetie Bow was just as dirty. Spike went lovey-dovey at the mention of his crush, and Starbloom giggled softly to herself, nodding at Twilight. She was just as dirty. So was Sulu and Applebloom, she said to Twilight, looking at Spike, who composed himself. The rest of dinner went by with general chatting about Spike's trip and Starbloom's crusading adventures and how school had been going. Spike did ask about where Starbloom was from, but she gave her general answer that she was from Canterlot, but left details vague when she could, and doing her best to change the subject. Once dinner had been finished, both Starbloom and Spike cleaned the table. Spike insisted he could do it on his own, but she was happy for the help. Twilight watched the two for a moment, smiling before going to the main hall of the library and settled at her desk. She was still researching Starbloom's ability before he left Canterlot. Twilight sent him a letter, asking to bring her a few books. Being the faithful assistant he was, he did bring them to her. She opened one and started to read it. It was a medical book on unicorns that had lost their horns in one way or another. Most of the book was about unicorn anatomy and how the horn was connected to the skull, how it acted as a focusing point for magic, and it also had a section on unicorns that had loosed their horns. Loosed their horns. A unicorn that has had his horn removed, either through accident or magically removed as punishment for their crimes, must go under treatment to remove magic buildup that develops over time. Most unicorns use their magic on a daily basis, so it is not as a widespread problem. The rate at which unicorns develop magic buildup differs from unicorn to unicorn, but the average time for treatment is normally every 3 months. Unicorns with an extremely high level of magic need to undergo treatment for magic buildup much more often. These unicorns are normally focused on magic as their special talents. If left untreated, magical buildup can become dangerous for unicorns without a horn. It can lead to mental and emotional instability. If left untreated, the buildup of magic can reach a critical point that results in magical explosion, much like a balloon filled with too much air. Horn unicorns, the sign of magic, build up easier to see. They typically have sparks of magic and a bright glow on the tip of their horn. Those unicorns that have no horn, the signs are harder to spot. They are more often prone to emotional outbursts and show signs of mental instability. That part caused Twilight to go into panic as she started to frantically search through the book looking for the treatment for magic buildup. The loose of a unicorn horn was such a rare occurrence that she never considered the possibility of adverse side effects to it. "What's the matter, Twilight?" Spike asked. Both he and Starbloom had come out of the kitchen to see Twilight reading the book, and the frantic look spread across her face. Spike and Starbloom walked over to where Twilight was standing as her eyes were quickly going over the page as she reread it before she started to quickly flip through the pages of the book looking for something. "Twilight?" Starbloom spoke up as she looked up at her, tilting her head. "Twilight, what's wrong?" Starbloom was starting to get worried herself as she saw the frantic reading and searching. She knew all too well something was going on. Twilight tossed the book in the air with her magic out of frustration. "Hey, careful! I have to return that to the library in Canterlot," Spike said quickly, catching the book before it hit the ground, looking over at Twilight. What the look on it was more of worry than anger. "Come on, Twilight, tell us what's the matter." Spike pleaded with Twilight, looking up at him holding the book. Twilight sighed and flopped on her flank, looking down before looking at Spike and then over at Starbloom. "We have a problem. I'm afraid Starbloom might be suffering from magic buildup," she said, looking at the floor of the library. Both Spike and Starbloom looked at each other before looking back at Twilight, confused. "Magic buildup? But Starbloom doesn't have magic. She's an earth pony," Spike said, looking at Twilight, tilting his head in confusion. Starbloom started to look a little worried. She looked at the book Spike was holding and recognized what it was. She never read the book herself, but she knew it was a medical book. "Actually, Spike, I'm a unicorn, just a hornless one," Starbloom said, standing in front of Spike, looking down as well. She wanted to keep it a secret, but if there was a problem like this, it would be the best to come clean now. "My horn was removed a few weeks ago," she said softly, rubbing her right forehoof on the floor of the library floor. "Wait, what?" Spike asked, looking from Starbloom to Twilight and back to Starbloom. "But how? But why? I thought only criminal unicorns had their horns removed," he said with even more confused look on his face now. "That doesn't matter now, Spike," Twilight said, getting more control of herself, looking over at Spike and then at Starbloom. "We need to find a way to drain Starbloom's magic, and soon, or—" she said, frowning and not wanting to think about what could happen. "How do we do it?" Starbloom asked, looking up at Twilight, trying to think of something, but without a horn it seemed impossible. "Unless," she said, as she got an idea and focused on pushing the magic out of her, focusing the magic on some books on a bookshelf. There was clearly a strain on her as she started to sweat and gritted her teeth, but her eyes soon flared with her magic aura, and the books came off the shelf and floated around her. The initial strain over, she let out a deep breath and held the books in her magic, making them orbit around her. It was still hard to hold the books up, with the focusing point like her horn, and she was burning through the magic build-up quickly. The aura around the books in her eyes started to flicker before fading away, and the books dropped to the ground. Starbloom also went down with the books before dropping to the ground, and her magic spent. It left her very tired. She laid on the ground, panting hard, bathed in sweat, but smiling. "I did it," she said before passing out. Twilight and Spike quickly checked to make sure she was okay. Twilight smiled softly and nods, levitating Starbloom with her magic. "Yes, you did." She carried Starbloom up to her room, wondering if that was how the parents of a unicorn foal felt when their child first used magic. She pulled the covers on Starbloom's bed back and placed her in it, tucking her in. "Sleep well, Starbloom," Twilight said, smiling, and kissed her forehead before heading back downstairs. She saw Spike putting away the book Starbloom had dropped and went over to help, using magic to pick up some of the books and put them away. Spike turned around when he saw the books floating. "Who is she, Twilight?" Spike asked, a serious look on the baby dragon's face. "Tell me the truth." Twilight sat down, sighing softly. She had a feeling this was coming after that display of power. "Spike, she's me, from the world of my dream. Remember me telling you about them, right?" she asked, looking at her assistant as he came over and sat down in front of her. His only answer to her question was a nod. Twilight continued by saying, "I'm not sure how it happened, but those were not my dreams. Not really. I was seeing this other world in this other Twilight. My theory is that we both performed the experiment. It linked us and allowed me to view her life through my dreams." "But how did she get here, and why is she a filly?" Spike asked after a few moments when Twilight finished speaking. "In your dream you told me you touched your horn to her head, breaking the link between the two of you." Twilight frowned and shakes her head slowly. "That isn't all that happened. I never told you or any pony else but after Starbloom disappeared, Luna appeared in my dream. I think it was a Luna from Starbloom's world. She told me she'd used the rift created from the experiment to send her here, for a second chance, that she and Celestia wanted her student to live a normal life. To bring her to the dream world, she had to make her a filly again. Celestia couldn't bear the thought of Starbloom being condemned to life in prison. She explained to Spike, using Starbloom's new name to make it easier for Spike to understand. Spike sat quiet for a while as he thought about what Twilight had told him. Twilight wasn't known for being able to keep secrets. The fact she had managed to keep that to herself meant the conversation between her and Luna in her dream must have been pretty emotional and tough for her to talk about. Spike, we need to find a way for Starbloom to easily and safely use her magic without it being so much of a strain on her, before her magic builds up and gets high again, Twilight said, looking at Spike, getting back on her hooves. Make some tea. We're in for a long night of study. Spike nodded and got to his own feet. Right away, Twilight, he said before leaving the main hall of the library to make some strong tea to help Twilight keep Twilight awake as she started to pull down books from the bookshelves and stack them next to her. Seriously? You gotta be kidding me. Twilight started to read the books feverishly, trying to find an answer, thinking to herself as she did so. I won't let you down, daughter. I won't let you die from this. She knew that much stress Starbloom put on herself to use magic without a horn could be fatal if she kept it up. Author's note. Corrected a few small parts for continuity with the revision I made to Twilight's Sleepless Night. I'm not going to read the comments because this was not short. So next we got Chapter 7. It's a little bit longer. Then Chapter 8 is a little bit shorter. Quite a bit shorter, actually. It's all good. It's all good. No shower scene. Whatever. You know what? I didn't want one anyway. I didn't want one.